Hey, what's up, guys? Alright, I'm gonna call it how I see it. A lot of people really misunderstand astrology. A lot of people think you can, so to say, predict exact future events by stars in the sky, and that would be incorrect. We have free will as humans, and rather than looking forward, trying to predict the future, astrology is much rather about reflecting on the past in order to recognize patterns so you can become aware of patterns and then change them. This is a birth chart. I feel like most of you guys maybe know what a birth chart is, but this is part of the complexity. This is just one little aspect of what astrology actually is. To sum it up, you're more than just your sun sign. You probably know your sun sign. It's based on your date of birth. So you see my sun's in Capricorn right here. But there's a lot more to a person than just their personality at face value or when you get to know them. Two more important aspects you really need to understand if you're interested in the subject is your ascendant and your moon sign. Your ascendant is how you come off to the world. So even though I'm a Capricorn sun, I don't see in myself my Leo ascendant, but when other people first meet me, when I have an instinctual reaction before I think about it, I come off as maybe more of a Leo than a sun in Capricorn. Another thing would be my moon in Sagittarius. The moon's a lot more subconscious, unconscious. Has to do with the home. This shows once you really get to know me under the surface of like my sun sign and my rising sign, I display a lot of these traits of my moon sign. And it gets really cool. It gets very complex. Every single planet. Because you can either just believe Uranus and Neptune are just giant balls of ice that don't support life and are completely, basically useless to our, development as humans. Saturn and Jupiter, just giant balls of gas. You can believe that, or you can take a step further and maybe not believe that the universe is such a cold place. Quick sum up too about recognizing patterns. I'll show you a little bit more of the intricacy and complexity of this subject because it's pretty cool once you get to know it. First house, your personality. So basically, what are the houses? So every person, the thing that is really cool about modern astrology, and most people don't even understand what Ophiuchius is about. Ophiuchius isn't in our Western astrology. We stick with the 12-sign system because everybody has all 12 signs in them, regardless if they have a planet in the sign or not. And so we focus more on once you integrate all 12 signs in your personality, you theoretically become your own person. You are your own person already. The signs, you don't, just because you're a Gemini doesn't mean that, any sign, whatever, but that doesn't mean that you were fated to be a Gemini. The signs are nothing without the people that represent them. You in yourself represent, you make your sign what it is. And that's why it gets so intricate, because it's we are far more than just our sun signs. Capricorn would be nothing without me as a representative of it. It'd be something clearly for all the other Capricorns out there, but I make up another aspect of Capricorn, just as you make up another aspect of your zodiac sign. See how we have it backwards? A lot of people think that this is dictating our fate, when actually we are creating the story that represents everything, maybe our even own definition of what fate actually is. What is destiny? But I'll go back to the houses real quick. So what makes this another so intricate subject is there's 12 zodiac signs, and then you have basically another wheel inside that, the 12 houses, which represent the zodiac signs but are based on your birth time, so it makes it far more complex. So first house has to do with Aries. Second house has to do with Taurus, third house Gemini, and so on. But anyways, they take up qualities of the signs that show how you do you differently. So for example, my first house is like Leo and Virgo, but first house is personality, second house is possessions, third house is communication. And so what's really cool about this wheel is, well, actually I'll finish and I'll get to the halfway mark. Fourth house is the home, and one quote that I like to really keep when thinking about this is home is where the heart is. So it's not just your physical home, it's what makes you feel at home. Fifth house is how you, creative expression, children, leaving a legacy in the world. How did you express your personality of the first house and the fifth house? Sixth house is service. So service habits has to do with Virgo. But anyway, so it's like, when I say service, it's service to self and service to others. So jobs kind of have to do with the sixth house, but not necessarily. A service to others is more so what you would do if you, like gift giving and whatnot. So anyways, and seventh house is relationships. And so the cool thing about the houses is they reflect one another. So this is your personality, and this is how other personalities interact with you. Seventh house is relationships, okay? Eighth house, okay, this is going to sound a little funny, but sex, money, death, and rebirth. And so why is death and rebirth? You don't have to believe in reincarnation to understand astrology, but that really is a big aspect of astrology. You have the south node and the north node. South node is generally where you've been comfortable in past lives, or your upbringing, patterns you took on as a child. So, you know how they say that a kid takes on aspects of just what was in their surroundings when they were in the womb of the mother? That would have to do with South Node qualities if you didn't believe in reincarnation. I mean, even up to a point, even if you do take on, like, it's almost like life is set up that you would have the opportunity to go to your South Node, which is your comfort, where you've been good at in past lives, so as then to realize that you need to go for your North Node if you want to progress as a person, if you want to develop new things. That's those two things. The two lunar nodes are like dependent on the furthest away the moon can be on the ecliptic, I believe. It gets really complicated. But anyways, 8th house, death, rebirth. So how does that reflect possessions? It's also other people's money and sex. So what happens because of relationships? Sex happens because of relationships. You know, you experience other people dying because you've had relationships with other people, and relationships just goes from anywhere to from friendship to actually dating people. So it gets like, it's a little deep, but yeah, that's to like give a little understanding. And then what happens because of you experiencing those things? If you ever experience someone dying in your life, then that 9th house is the house of religion, spiritual philosophy, higher education, has to do with Sagittarius, so travel. So it's like, because of the things that you experience from your relationships, you're going to go for these things afterwards. Because, like, I mean, no, yeah, I'll just leave it at that. We'll keep it simple. 10th house, house of the career. So when I say career, I also want to say this is the house of wisdom. That's my personal philosophy with it. So it has to do with Capricorn. And it's kind of like the question to like answering the 10th house is, it's like, what would you do if you were the only person on the earth and you would enjoy it? And if you can incorporate that into something that can make you money, then you're completing the goal of the 10th house. The reason that, like, how this reflects to the 4th house is it's like you have to have a career to have a home, because they go hand in hand. You know what I mean? 11th house, house of humanitarianism, house of friends, house of dreams. And when I say dreams, like, 12th house is the like real dreams, but 11th house is the house of like, what do you dream to get in life? Yeah, okay, so then to explain the contrast to that, 12th house, so 11th house is Aquarius, like, themed, and then 12th house is Piscean, which is Pisces, but it's the house of otherworldliness, the house of the unseen, house of literal dreams, so like where you go in the dream realm. And Yeah, it's really like complicated. It's cool though if you have 12th house energy. It's like therapy is really like helpful, or not even therapy, but just like learning from other people like what you don't see, because it's hard to see it if you're not like born capable to see it. But anyways, so the reason that I like explained all this is just because it's like, let me think of a really good example. So ninth house, I have Saturn in the ninth house. So you can read this if you want, but it's really cool. This program, if you're interested in this at all, there's a free program you can get on iPhone, I think Android too, called Time Passages. I really recommend it. But Saturn in my ninth house really means like it was hard for me to do the 2 college classes that I did. And it was hard in the sense where it's like I don't learn in the same like way that most people do, where you go to like college and you study books and you like take tests, standardized testing. I went to On Track for the last 2 years of my high school experience and I did wonderful there. And so it just shows you like Saturn's like rules Capricorn, but I mean it's like planet of harsh trials. Like the rings represent the like limitations of our mortal reality as humans. Deep, I know, but it shows you that. Okay, so me reflecting on my life. So I took the past year off from school, and I'm probably not actually going to go to school now that I am where I am. But it helped me to realize that it's like, rather than me not wanting to go to college being a bad thing, it's actually a wonderful thing. I like, with Saturn there, I had the harsh lesson in reality of like when I was a kid. You know, of course, not every kid, but a lot of kids want to go to college, and so I had to face that harsh reality where I actually had to change my perspective and realize that I didn't go to college so I can learn what I'm learning now, which is astrology and music. So you see how rather than me trying to be like, oh, because your Saturn's in your ninth house, you're not going to go to college. No, that's not how that works at all. Someone else with Saturn in the ninth house might actually just be someone that goes and gets a doctorate because they had a really tough time in college, and like the doctor after like 10 years or something. So they had a really tough time, but when they were done, they ended up being the best doctor they could be. See how it can like play out in 2 different ways. That's one thing I'll leave you off to at the end of this video. Everything, since we live in, okay, this is going to sound like really like spiritual and abstract, but I mean that's what astrology really is. Everything has 2 aspects. We live in duality, good and bad, right and wrong, left and right. You know what I'm saying, you know the drill. But anyways, so I'll just use my own sign as a good example. For everything that a sign's supposed to be, it holds the exact opposite quality as well. So Capricorns are known to be some of the most ambitious, hardworking, and like, a quote about Capricorns is, if you have a goal in mind, they will stop at nothing to get it. They'll reach that goal and anyway, so. But on the flip side, if a Capricorn doesn't feel appreciated for their work, if they don't, one of the biggest things is like, Capricorns are kind of perfectionists, right? The energy of Capricorn. And what they'll do is they'll avoid trial in order to avoid failure because they're so afraid to fail. So you can get a really lazy Capricorn. You can have a Capricorn doing like absolutely nothing, like because they're so afraid that if they try something new that they'll fail. They have that expectation of themselves. So anyways, you see how these are polar opposites? Because the ambitious Capricorn will just go it and do it right within the first couple times and do the best they can and continue going for their goals. Whereas another Capricorn will be so scared to make a mistake that they won't even try. And that goes with every zodiac sign. You can realize research the dark side of your zodiac sign if you'd like to. But yeah, I think I'll like leave this video at this length. If you guys like it, I can make more. But I just wanted to kind of make this PSA because a lot of people really misunderstand what astrology is actually about. But anyways, you take care, guys. Peace out. Alright, and I just remembered I want to add 2 things, or like 2 or 3 things to the video, just to make it a little bit more fully focused and like understandable. I said the second house is the house of possessions. Second house is also the house of values. So, first house is your personality, and then you develop your values because of your personality. And so then your third house is the communication, so you have, like, hopefully, you have your values before you communicate, so you communicate your values. And then the reason that the second house is reflected in the eighth house, so sex, money, death, rebirth, whatever, your values are reflected on these subjects because these are probably like some of the most touchy subjects. Like, what's your, well, how do your values apply to what your beliefs on like how sex should be ran in your life? Shouldn't be dictated in other people's lives. It should be years and years alone. But that way you can communicate with others and then come to like an agreement about how, whatever. I mean, it's not really up for, it is up for debate, but I don't know, I'm pretty freedom loving and fun loving, so I don't judge. But that's how they're reflected. So they might have not made much sense before where I said your material possessions are reflected in sex, money, death, rebirth. But your values and your material possessions go hand in hand because you're not going to own something that your values don't say that you should own, or you do, and then there's a conflict that you're going to have to resolve. But that's what astrology can help you come to terms with. But anyway, so then your values on sex, money, death, rebirth, all that. The reason the ninth house is after the eighth house, which is spirituality and like spiritual philosophy, religion, is because like a lot of people turn to religion and turn to spirituality to develop their values about those subjects. So that just sums that up a bit more. And then also I was going to leave you with one really cool note. So I'm not really what you'd call Christian anymore. I still think there's like but I grew up Christian, but I think there's a little piece of truth in everything. One really cool thing is, so I was talking about Ophiuchus for a second, and so that is a constellation, but astrology, and our Western astrology is what it's called. It's based on the seasons, more so than the constellations. Actually, the constellations have nothing to do with our Western astrology. They just represent energies. But, well, they do, but it's complicated. I can touch on that later. But anyway, so Jesus, had 12 disciples. Every disciple had a lesson of every zodiac sign. And so when you can see that you could encompass every lesson from every disciple or every zodiac sign, you get a Jesus-like figure. Not to say that any of us are Jesus, but we all have Christ-like qualities. You can choose to aspect those things. I mean, integrate them into your life. And also in the chromatic scale, on our Western understanding of music, there's 12 defined notes. So it's really funny because then you take these 12 defined notes and you make a song out of them, and then essentially that song creates the encompassment of the 12 notes. So I don't know, it's really cool how numbers repeat themselves throughout our lives and have a lot to do with the world, and things repeat themselves. Yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of patterns, and they all have a lot to do with each other. So anyways, I'll leave you guys with that, because I think those are two really cool, or I don't know how many that was, but that's just a really cool piece to add to the end of this video. Anyways, if you guys have stuck through this video, thank you big time, and I appreciate it. I hope you learned something. And you guys, again, take care. Much love. Peace.